The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead in the Los Angeles County Jail visiting room, casting everyone in a sickly pale glow. I stared through the smudged glass partition at my son Pierre, my boy, my only son, in an orange jumpsuit that hung loose on his frame. When did he get so thin? My hands trembled as I reached for the phone. Twice I nearly dropped it before pressing it against my ear. Papi, I'm sorry, Pierre's voice cracked. His eyes, so much like his mother's, couldn't meet mine. I opened my mouth but found no words. Construction workers aren't built for moments like these. We fix things, concrete, steel, broken pipes, not broken lives, not sons who shoot people. You gotta believe me, Pierre continued, leaning forward. I didn't mean for it to go down like that. Vario Nuevo been pushing into our territory for months. They jumped Flaco last week. We had to respond. Had to respond like it was as simple as answering a phone call, not putting a bullet in another 19-year-old who was somebody else's son. Your mother couldn't come, I finally said, my voice sounding distant even to myself. Victoria has a fever. Sylvia's with her. The lie felt heavy. The truth that Sylvia hadn't stopped crying for 3 days, that she couldn't bear to see our son in chains, that Victoria refused to even say Pierre's name, felt too cruel to share. Tell them I love them, Pierre whispered. A memory flashed Pierre at 5 years old, his small feet tripping over themselves as I taught him to kick a soccer ball in the patch of dirt behind our apartment building. His laughter when he finally connected, the ball soaring over our makeshift goal. Mira, papi, mira, the DA's offering a deal, I said, forcing myself back to the present. 20 years, possibility of parole after 12. Pierre's face crumpled. 20 years, I'll be 40 when I get out. If you get out, I thought but didn't say. I've been working overtime, double shifts when I can get them, I said. The lawyer thinks if we can show the judge, save your money, Pierre interrupted. We all know what happens next. Brown kids from East LA don't get breaks. The guard's voice boomed through the room. 5 minutes. I hadn't slept more than 3 hours a night since the arrest 2 weeks ago. My eyes burned, my back ached from 16-hour days at the construction site, followed by night shifts at a garment factory downtown. The extra money barely made a dent in the lawyer's retainer, $5,000 that disappeared like water in the desert. We're going to fight this, I insisted, pressing my palm against the glass. Your mother and I, you should have been there before, Pierre said, his voice suddenly hard. When those gangbangers were recruiting me after school, when they were telling me I needed protection, where were you then, papi? Each word felt like a nail driven into my chest. Working, always working. 2 jobs to keep our apartment in a neighborhood where gunshots were as common as car alarms. 2 jobs that still weren't enough to move us somewhere safer. I was trying to give you a better life, I said. Pierre laughed, a hollow sound that held no joy. How's that working out? The guard approached, tapping Pierre's shoulder. Time up, Pierre. Listen to me, I said quickly. When you were little, you used to go to church with your abuela. Do you remember? Maybe if you prayed. Pray, Pierre stood, the phone still pressed to his ear. Where was God when Rico handed me that gun? Where was God when that bullet left the chamber? Where was God when that kid bled out on the sidewalk? The guard was pulling him away now. I'll be back tomorrow, I called out, pressing harder against the glass, as if I could push through it. Pierre, we're going to fix this. But he was already turning away, shoulders hunched, hands cuffed, led back to a cell I couldn't imagine. I sat there long after he disappeared, the phone buzzing with dial tone against my ear. Around me, other families were having similar conversations, wives wiping away tears, mothers clutching photos, children waving goodbye to fathers they barely knew. 20 years, my son would be older than I was when he was born, and there was nothing, absolutely nothing, I could build, fix, or pay that would change that reality. I finally hung up the phone and walked out into the Los Angeles afternoon, the sun blinding after the dim visiting room. I had 4 hours before my night shift started. 4 hours to figure out how to tell Sylvia that our son had already given up. 4 hours to figure out how to tell myself the same thing. The sewing machine's rhythm was hypnotic after 14 straight hours. My fingers, calloused from years of construction work, now guided delicate fabric through the needle's bite. The garment district warehouse hummed with dozens of machines. Immigrant women hunched over their work, racing against impossible quotas. 2 more hours, I muttered, blinking hard against exhaustion. The lawyer wanted another 5,000 by Friday. Mr. Henderson had made it clear. No money, no defense. Your son's case isn't high profile, he'd said with lawyer coldness. Pro bono work goes to clients who generate publicity. Hey, new guy. A voice broke through my trance. Coffee? I looked up, squinting at the man standing beside my station. 150-ish, weathered face, always smiling, despite the sweatshop conditions and the supervisor who screamed at us in 3 languages. No thanks, I said, turning back to my work. Gotta finish this batch. One set a styrofoam cup down anyway. You look like you need it more than I do. The unexpected kindness irritated me. I didn't want conversation, didn't want pity, just needed to earn money for my son's legal defense. Every minute of small talk was a minute less I could work. Your hands are shaking, one observed. How many nights you been doing this? I took a reluctant sip. The coffee was terrible but hot. I noticed you haven't eaten since you got here. That's what, 6 hours ago? I shrugged. Not hungry. Food was money I couldn't afford to spend. One pulled up a stool. The floor manager was on break, so no one would chase him away. I know that look, man. You're carrying something heavy. Just trying to work. I increased my pace, hoping he'd take the hint. My son died in prison, one said quietly. My hands froze mid-stitch. I didn't look up. Gang fight in the yard. He was 19, just like your boy. One's voice held no self-pity, just a steady calmness that seemed impossible given what he'd just shared. I don't need a sermon. My voice came out harsher than intended. One nodded. Neither did I, back then. Wouldn't have listened anyway. Too angry, too messed up. Something in his tone made me finally look at him. His eyes held none of the judgment I'd seen from neighbors, none of the awkward pity from former church friends who crossed the street when they saw me coming. How'd you? I couldn't finish the question. Get through it. One smiled sadly. I didn't for a long time. Worked myself half to death, like you're doing. Pushed everyone away. Blamed God. Blamed myself. Blamed the system. I turned back to my sewing. My son's not dead. He's just facing 20 years. The words felt like ash in my mouth. That's its own kind of grief. One said gently. Losing the son you knew. Losing the future you planned. The simple truth of it made my throat tighten. Sylvia crying herself to sleep every night. Victoria refusing to talk about her brother, throwing herself into her studies like academic success could somehow erase our family's shame. The mounting bills, the whispers from neighbors, The way my foreman looked at me now, like I might be dangerous too. What changed? I asked, surprising myself with the question. I met someone who'd been through it too. She told me something I couldn't shake. Juan paused, his fingers pulling through his hair. She said, in the darkest valley, you're not alone. I snorted, sounds like a bumper sticker. That's what I thought too. Juan stood checking his watch. Break's over, but here. He slid a card toward me. We meet Tuesday nights, just parents who get it. No preaching, I promise. Just people walking the same dark road. I pocketed the card without looking at it. Thanks for the coffee. As one walked away, I called after him. Why bother with a stranger? He turned and in his eyes I saw something I hadn't seen in weeks. Genuine compassion without pity. Someone did it for me once. Besides, we recognize our own. Long after my shift ended, his words followed me home. While everyone else offered advice or judgment, one had simply been present. Different somehow, and for the first time since my son's arrest, I felt a tiny crack in the wall I'd built around myself. But cracks, I knew from construction work, could either be repaired or become the place where everything falls apart. I sat alone on the metal bench outside the prison visiting area, my hands shaking so badly I couldn't even open the pack of gum in my pocket. An hour until I could see Pierre, an hour to figure out what to say to my son who was now facing life without parole. The plea deal had evaporated overnight. New evidence, a security camera that showed Pierre firing a second shot, execution style, while the victim lay wounded. The prosecutor called it depraved indifference. The public defender called it game over. My phone buzzed with a text from my supervisor. Sorry, Oscar, company policy. Can't keep employees with family members convicted of violent felonies. Clean out your locker Monday. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. 23 years on the same construction crew. 23 years of showing up early, staying late, never missing a day. Gone. Pastor Ray appeared at the end of the hallway, his Bible tucked under his arm. I'd called him in desperation last night, though I hadn't stepped foot in church since Pierre was 10. Since I decided God was just another boss who promised things he couldn't deliver. Oscar. He sat beside me not too close. I came as soon as I could. I nodded, staring at the scuffed linoleum floor. They're moving him to maximum security next week. No more plea deals, they want life. I know, Sylvia told me. The mention of my wife made my throat tighten. She can't even look at me anymore. Thinks it's my fault for working so much. Maybe she's right. Maybe if I'd been home more. Oscar. Pastor Ray interrupted gently. What happened isn't your fault, isn't it? I laughed bitterly. I chose to work nights. I chose to miss his games, his school events. I chose money over my family, and this is what I get. Pastor Ray didn't rush to contradict me. Instead, he asked, have you eaten today? I shook my head. Can't keep anything down. When's the last time you slept? What does it matter? My voice rose sharply. A guard glanced over, and I lowered my head. I tried everything, Pastor. Everything. Talked to people I shouldn't know. Offered money I don't have. Threatened people I shouldn't threaten. I stopped, ashamed to admit I'd considered bringing a weapon to the courthouse. Pastor Ray waited silently. I can't fix this, I finally whispered, the words burning like acid. My boy is going away forever. And there's nothing I can do. Nothing. My shoulders began to shake. I pressed the heels of my hands against my eyes, but the tears came anyway, hot, angry tears that had been building for months. I failed him. I sobbed. I failed my family. I failed God. Oscar. Pastor Ray said gently, you remind me of something I see on my brother's farm. When a sheep falls on its back, it can't get up by itself. The more it struggles, the more exhausted it becomes. If the shepherd doesn't come, it dies there. I looked up, confused and angry. What? The sheep tries and tries to stand, kicking its legs frantically, but it just wears itself out completely. Only the shepherd can turn it over, can lift it up. That's supposed to make me feel better. I asked bitterly. Comparing me to a helpless animal, it's not about feeling better. It's about admitting you can't do this alone. He placed his hand on my shoulder. You've been trying to carry Pierre and Sylvia and Victoria and yourself. You're exhausted, Oscar, dying inside. Let Jesus, the Good Shepherd, carry you for a while. Tempted more than I thought possible, something broke inside me. I don't know how, I admitted. I don't know how to let go. If I stop fighting, if I stop working, if I stop trying to save him, what then? Then you discover what I learned when my daughter was dying of cancer. Sometimes the hardest thing and the most faithful thing is to stop trying to be God. What do I tell Pierre? How do I face him knowing I can't save him? Oscar whispered. Just be his father, not his savior. That job's already taken. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of those words. I've been away from God so long. Why would he help me now? Why would he care about my mess? Because that's who he is. Pastor Ray said simply, a good shepherd leaves the 99 to find the one, even when that one has wandered far into the wilderness. My hands were still trembling. When I asked, would you pray with me? Before I see Pierre, I don't know the right words anymore. Pastor Ray nodded, and we bowed our heads right there in that sterile hallway. I didn't have elegant words, just broken pieces of desperation. God, I can't, I can't do this. I've tried everything. I'm scared, I'm angry, I'm lost. Help me, please. I don't know how to surrender, but I can't keep carrying this alone. It wasn't much of a prayer, but it was honest. When I looked up, the guard was motioning that visiting hours were starting. I stood on shaky legs. Will you come with me? Pastor Ray rose beside me. Through the valley, he said, you're not alone. For the first time in months, I believed it might be true. The visiting room at the county jail was never quiet. Metal chairs scraped against concrete floors. Guards called out instructions. Parents wept. I sat across from my son Pierre, the table between us like a canyon I couldn't cross. The life sentence had been reduced to 25 years after the security footage proved inconclusive. Pierre's new lawyer, a young public defender who actually seemed to care, had found inconsistencies in the witness testimony. Not enough for acquittal, but enough for hope. You look different, Dad, Pierre said, his voice softer than I remembered. I rubbed my eyes. Different how? Less. He searched for the word frantic. You still look tired, but not like you're about to fall over. I stared at my hands. The needle pricks from the garment factory were healing. I'd only worked 3 nights this week instead of 7. The church benevolence fund was helping with legal fees. But more than that, I was learning to rest between battles. I lost my job at the construction site, I told him. Pierre's face crumpled. Because of me? Because of choices, mine and yours. But I found work with a smaller crew. The foreman goes to Pastor Ray's church, pays less, but he treats people like humans. Are you angry? Pierre asked quietly. I considered the question. A month ago, I would have been furious, would have blamed him, the system god. Now, I'm sad. For you, for the family you shot, for all of us caught in this web. But angry? Not the same way. Time's up, the guard announced. I stood, my knees still aching but not with the same desperation. I'll be back Thursday. Dad, Pierre called as I turned to leave. What changed? You seem, I don't know. What's up with that? I thought for a moment. I stopped trying to be everything to everybody. I'm not God. Most importantly, I started following my shepherd. I smiled at his confusion as I walked out. That evening, I came home to find our apartment transformed. Victoria sat at the kitchen table with three other teenage girls, all working on homework together. Sylvia was in the kitchen with two other women, preparing food. What's all this? I asked. Support group, Victoria said without looking up. For siblings of incarcerated family members. Mrs. Rodriguez started it after her brother got arrested. Sylvia emerged from the kitchen, her eyes clearer than I'd seen them in months. And this is our meal train for the Hernandez family. Their father just got diagnosed with cancer. I stared at my family, my wife and daughter not just surviving our crisis, but helping others through theirs. When did this start? Last week, Sylvia said. Pastor Luis suggested it, said the best way to heal from your own valley is to help others through theirs. A knock at the door interrupted us. Victoria opened it to reveal Juan from the garment factory, holding a covered dish. I brought tamales, he said, then saw my surprise. Sylvia invited me. Hope that's okay. Juan comes to the support group too, Victoria explained. His perspective helps. As we sat around our small table, our family Juan, Mrs. Rodriguez and her daughter, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Not happiness, exactly, but a strange kind of fullness. I was a part of the flock. Juan, I said as we ate. You mentioned someone helped you when your son died. Who was it? Juan smiled. Pastor Luis, back when he was just starting ministry, barely older than my boy. But he sat with me in the hospital when they brought Roberto's body home. Didn't say much, just was present. I looked across the table at this community that had formed around our broken family. How long has Pastor Luis been walking with families like ours? 15 years, Mrs. Rodriguez answered. Since he lost his own nephew to gang violence, that's when he started the ministry. The room fell quiet. I had no idea Pastor Luis carried his own valley. The shepherd finds the lost sheep, one said quietly, then teaches them to help find others. That night, for the first time since Pierre's arrest, I didn't set my alarm for 4 a.m. I didn't pull out sewing work. Instead, I sat on our small balcony, looking at the stars barely visible through the city lights. I can't save my son, I whispered, not sure if I was praying or just speaking to the night. But you can. Send laborers across his path to tell him about you. I want him with the rest of my family together with you for eternity. Thank you, Jesus, for hearing my prayer. A strange peace settled over me, not happiness, not the absence of pain, but the presence of something else, someone else. In the middle of this dark valley, I wasn't alone, and somehow, in ways I couldn't understand, my family was becoming part of something larger than our crisis. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. The visiting room at Corcoran State Prison wasn't designed for comfort. Hard plastic chairs, fluorescent lights that made everyone look sick, and that constant background noise, a mix of muffled conversations and the occasional harsh command from a guard. I waited, my Bible open on my lap. 8 months since Pierre's sentencing, 8 months of learning to walk with my shepherd again. 8 months of discovering that sometimes the valley is where you meet God most clearly. The door buzzed, and Stefan shuffled in with the other inmates. Not my son, my son's friend. Another lost boy who'd been running with the same gang. He spotted me and nodded, his face unreadable as he sat down across from me. You came again, he said, surprise still in his voice after 4 visits. I told you I would. I smiled, though my heart ached seeing how young he looked in the oversized prison uniform. Stefan glanced at my Bible. You brought that again too. It helps me, I said simply. Keeps me on the right path. Reminds me whose I am. Your son called you this week? Stefan asked. I nodded. Tuesday. He's doing okay. says the GED program is going well. He's been reading too. Books I never thought he'd touch. Stefan looked down at his hands. That's good. He always was the smart one. A silence fell between us. This was our fourth visit, and I was still learning how to navigate these waters. Before my son's arrest, I would have been filled with judgment for this boy. Now I saw him differently. A sheep without a shepherd, just like I had been. Stefan, I said carefully, there's something I need to tell you about the night of the shooting. His head snapped up, eyes wary. Pierre told me something last week about what really happened. Stefan's jaw clenched. What did he say? That you tried to stop it. That you grabbed his arm when he pulled the gun. That's why the first shot went wide. Tears welled in Stefan's eyes. Lot of good that did. It means everything, I said firmly. It means you have a heart that knows right from wrong. It means you're not lost, just detoured. My lawyer says I could get out in 12 years if I testify against Pierre about the second shot. My stomach clenched, but I kept my voice steady. What are you going to do? I don't know. Stefan wiped his eyes with his sleeve. Pierre's my boy, but 12 years versus 25. My mom's sick, man. She might not last 12 years. I leaned forward. I've been thinking about what you said last time, about God forgetting this place. But what if he didn't? What if he sent you here for a reason? To rot in prison. Stefan's voice was bitter. To meet him in the valley, I said quietly. To discover that even here, especially here, you're not abandoned. How can you still believe that? After everything that's happened to your family, I opened my Bible to a passage I'd marked, because I learned something in my own dark valley. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Easy to say from the outside. I'm not on the outside of anything, Stefan. My son's gone for 25 years. I lost my job, nearly lost my family. I'm walking through the same valley you are, just from a different path. Stefan was quiet for a long moment. What changed for you? I stopped trying to be my own god. Boss, leader, shepherd, I said, shaking my head. Started following the real one, and that fixed everything? He said in a wry tone. I shook my head. Nothing's fixed. Pierre's still in prison. The victim's family still grieves. Your mom is still sick. But I'm not carrying all of that alone anymore. I don't know how to do that. Stefan whispered. Neither did I. Start with this. You're not here by accident. God didn't lose track of you when you ended up in gang colors. He's been pursuing you your whole life, waiting for you to stop running. A guard walked by, and we fell silent until he passed. You know what my daughter Victoria said to me last week? I continued. She said she's never seen me, and her mom's so steady, even with everything that's happened. That's not us. That's him working in us. Your wife still doing those prayer circles for the families? He asked. I nodded. Every Thursday. 7 mothers now, including yours. Stefan's eyes widened. My mom went. 3 weeks now. Says it's the only place where people understand her grief without judging her love for you. Tears flowed freely now. She still loves me, even after what I did. Son, I said gently, using a word that felt right. There's nothing you could do that would make your mother stop loving you. Just like there's nothing you could do that would make God stop pursuing you. The buzzer sounded, signaling the end of visiting hours. Stefan stood slowly. Oscar, if I testify, if I tell the truth about what Pierre did, would you still come see me? My heart broke and mended simultaneously. Stefan, Jesus doesn't abandon his sheep because they make hard choices. Neither will I, even if it means more time for Pierre, he asked skeptically. I stood, meeting his eyes. The truth is the truth. Pierre knows that, and whatever happens, we'll walk through it together, all of us. As I watched him walk back through the security door, I whispered the words that had become my daily breath. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. 6 months later, I stood outside another prison, this time minimum security, waiting for Stefan's release. His testimony had been honest and devastating, adding 5 years to Pierre's sentence but taking 10 years off his own. The truth, as I'd learned, is rarely convenient, but always necessary. Sylvia stood beside me, along with Stefan's mother, Maria, and Pastor Luis. We'd become an unlikely family, bound not by blood, but by shared valleys, and a shepherd who'd found us all. There he is, Maria whispered, as Stefan emerged, blinking in the sunlight. He looked older, more settled. Prison education programs and our weekly Bible studies had changed him. When he saw us, his face broke into a smile I'd never seen before, joy mixed with genuine peace. "Oscar," he said, embracing me, "you came. I told you I would," I replied. "Welcome home." As we drove toward the halfway house where Stefan would live, while transitioning back to society, I reflected on the strange journey that had brought us all here. My son was still in prison, would be for 20 years. The victim's family still grieved. These realities hadn't changed, but everything else had. I now directed a ministry for families of incarcerated youth. Sylvia ran support groups for mothers. Victoria, about to graduate high school, planned to study criminal justice. We'd found our calling in the valley. "Stefan," I said, as we pulled up to the halfway house, "you remember what I told you about the shepherd?" He nodded. "That he never stops looking for lost sheep, right? Well, you're not lost anymore, but that doesn't mean your job is done," I told him. Stefan looked confused. "The shepherd found you," I explained. "Now he's going to use you to help find others. That's how this works. That's how the family of God grows." As I watched Stefan walk into his new life, I thought about Pierre, still serving his time, but transformed by the same grace that had found me. I thought about the countless families, still walking through their own valleys, still believing they were alone. Tomorrow I would visit another young man in county jail, would sit across another metal table, and share the same truth Juan had shared with me. In the darkest valley, you're not alone. Jesus had found me when I was lost, dying in my own stubbornness and pride. He'd taught me to rest in green pastures, to drink from quiet waters, to walk without fear, through the shadow of death. Now he was using me to help others find their way home. And whether we dwell in freedom or behind bars, in success or in failure, in joy or in sorrow, we dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The valley had become my calling, the Good Shepherd had become my life, and somehow, impossibly, beautifully, that was enough. This story is dedicated to every family walking through the valley of the criminal justice system, and to the shepherd who never stops searching for his lost sheep.